For 130 years, criminal profilers and armchair detectives have been looking in the wrong place. When we hunt for Jack the Ripper, we are conditioned to look for a phantom in the East End of London, a local butcher, a madman wandering the alleys of Whitechapel. But modern investigative profiling tells us something different. Serial killers of this magnitude are rarely the raving lunatics screaming on street corners. They are organized, they are wealthy, they have the means to travel, to hide in plain sight, and to fund their dark compulsions. It is time to discard the caricatures. The most forensically sound, geographically logical, and psychologically complete suspect in the Jack the Ripper case was not a Londoner at all. He was a wealthy Scouse cotton merchant named James Maybrick, and the evidence proving he was the Whitechapel butcher is hiding in plain sight. The psychological profile: arsenic and rage. James Maybrick lived in the affluent Liverpool suburb of Aigburth. To the outside world, he was a Victorian gentleman of high status, but biologically his mind was fracturing. Maybrick was a heavy chronic user of arsenic and strychnine. In the 1880s, these lethal poisons were prescribed in microdoses as male aphrodisiacs and tonics. But Maybrick was an addict. Modern toxicology proves that chronic arsenic abuse leads to severe psychosis, paranoid delusions, and violent, uncontrollable rage. His trigger, his young wife, Florence. Maybrick discovered she was having a passionate affair with a local businessman. Unable to murder his high society wife without destroying his own reputation, Maybrick's arsenic-fueled psychosis needed an outlet. He required a hunting ground far from his Aigburth mansion. He chose the slums of London. The diary, secrets only the killer knew. In 1992, a Victorian scrapbook was discovered in Liverpool. It was a 9,000-word confession written by James Maybrick, detailing the murders of the 5 canonical Whitechapel victims. Skeptics immediately labeled it a modern forgery. However, a deeper investigative dive reveals chilling facts. The diary contains highly specific, non-public details about the crime scenes that were not available in the press in 1888. For instance, the diary explicitly mentions an empty tin box left at the gruesome murder scene of Mary Jane Kelly. This detail was buried deep in police archives and was completely unknown to the general public until long after the diary was found. It also details the exact sequence of mutilations on the victims, surgical sequences that only the coroner and the killer knew. The physical evidence: the Maybrick watch. If the diary wasn't enough, consider the physical evidence. In 1993, an 1840s gold gentleman's pocket watch was brought forward. Scratched into the inner brass cover of the watch were the initials of the 5 Whitechapel victims, along with the words "I am Jack" and "J. Maybrick." Again, cries of forgery echoed, but science proved otherwise. The watch was subjected to rigorous metallurgical testing by independent forensic laboratories, including researchers at the University of Manchester. Using scanning electron microscopes, scientists examined the scratches. They found that the brass at the bottom of the engravings contained the exact same natural oxidation and crystallization as the untouched surface of the watch. In forensics, this is a smoking gun. It means the scratches could not have been made in the 20th century. The engravings were undeniably etched into the metal in the late 19th century. Means, motive, and opportunity. How does a man from Liverpool commit a string of murders in London? The logistics are flawless. As a highly successful cotton merchant, Maybrick possessed a seasonal rail pass on the London and North Western Railway. The train line directly connected Liverpool Lime Street to London Euston. Maybrick travelled to London constantly for business, maintaining private lodgings in the capital. He could dine in Liverpool on a Friday, arrive in London by nightfall, commit his atrocities under the cover of the Whitechapel fog, and be back on a morning train to the northwest, leaving the Metropolitan Police searching for a local phantom who had already vanished 200 miles away. The final proof: the murders stopped. Perhaps the most compelling argument for James Maybrick is the sudden, inexplicable end of Jack the Ripper's reign of terror. The canonical murders ended abruptly in November 1888 with the death of Mary Jane Kelly. Why do serial killers stop? Usually they are either incarcerated or they die. In May 1889, just months after the final Ripper murder, James Maybrick died violently in his Liverpool home. He was poisoned. His wife, Florence Maybrick, was arrested, convicted, and sentenced to death for his murder, a case that became the greatest Victorian scandal of its time. Jack the Ripper wasn't outsmarted by Scotland Yard. He didn't flee the country. The most infamous serial killer in history was poisoned by his own wife in a sprawling manner in Merseyside. The timeline is exact. The forensic evidence of the watch is undeniable. The psychological motive is historically documented. Forget the myths of a top-hatted London ghost. The facts point north. Jack the Ripper was James Maybrick,